Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to Once Upon a Time Dashavatara series. And today we are in the very last episode of Dashavatara series. We have already covered about the first 9 incarnations of the Lord as covered by Srila Jayadeva Goswami in his beautiful Dashavatara Stotra as part of his Gita Govinda. We have already talked about Matsyavatara, Kurmavatara, Varaha Avatara, Narasimha Avatara, Vamana Avatara, Parashurama Avatara, Rama Avatara, Balarama Avatara, Buddha Avatara, and finally today we are going to talk about the ultimate 10th incarnation, that is Kalki Avatara. Are you excited? We are going to talk about so many interesting, fascinating details related to Kalki, which I'm sure is going to leave you stunned. You know, many times, every once in a while, people spread these rumors saying that the whole world is going to come to an end, Mahapralaya is going to happen, everybody is going to get destroyed. Like they were spreading these rumors back in 2000. And then again in 2012, they were saying that, oh, as per the Mayan calendar, the world is coming to an end in 2012. Nothing happened. Well, that is exactly why we should not fall prey to the rumors, but always go by what the scriptures are saying. So the greatest of the scriptures, Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, how wonderful this Purana is that even before Kalki comes, already about Kalki is given in the scriptures. Kalki's coming is predicted in Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto. In fact, here you see in the back cover of Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto is a beautiful image of Kalki. So as per Srimad Bhagavatam, Kalki will come for what? To do two things. One is he is going to kill by the millions all the sinful evil people of Kali Yuga. He is going to annihilate the personification of Kali Yuga called the Kali Purusha. Not only will he annihilate Kali Purusha and his Kali Chelas, he will also establish Dharma and start Satya Yuga, the golden age again. But in order to do this, when will he come? Bhagavatam says Kalki will come during Yuga Sandhya. First of all, what is Sandhya? Sandhya means meeting point. Like for example, during the course of the day, there are 3 Sandhya Kalas. Kala means time, Sandhya is meeting. So the meeting time of what? The first Sandhya Kala comes in the early morning hours when the night is ending and the morning is beginning, the sun is up. And then again, around noon time, there is the second Sandhya Kala where the morning is getting over and the noon is beginning. And then yet again in the evening, there is one more Sandhya Kala when the afternoon is over and the night hours, the dark is beginning. So this is called Trikala Sandhya. A Brahmana, an initiated Brahmana, is supposed to chant his prayers, Gayatri Mantra, during these 3 Kalas, 3 Sandhya Kalas. So now that we know what Sandhya means, now let's understand what is Yuga Sandhya. There are 4 Yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. So the meeting point between Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga is Yuga Sandhya. Between Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga, the meeting point is Sandhya, Yuga Sandhya. And similarly, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga, meeting point The ending of Dwapara, starting of Kali is Yuga Sandhya. Now Kalki will come when the Kali Yuga is about to end and Satya Yuga will begin. So the Yuga Sandhya that Bhagavatam is talking about is the end of this Kali Yuga and the starting of next cyclical process, that is the next Satya Yuga. That is when Kalki will come. And how long is Kali Yuga? 4,32,000 years. Very, very precise. Our scriptures are so detailed. And of these 4,32,000 years, we have only gone past about 5,000 years. So we have a really, really, really long way to go. 4,27,000 years we need to go past, and that is when Kalki is going to appear. So that's when he is going to come. And many impersonators, right? So many people, they keep calling themselves as I am Kalki Bhagwan, I am Kalki. First of all, Kalki is not going to come anytime soon, okay? We are long ways away. And also, in some of my previous videos, I have described Bhagavan means he is the most beautiful, he is the most famous. He's the most knowledgeable, he's the wealthiest, he's the most renounced, and he's the strongest. Now imagine when somebody like this, with all the Aishwarya, Shad Aishwaryas in full, when he comes, are they going to be like these cheap fellows who keep calling themselves as Kalki? Like one fellow, he's so bulky and he calls himself Kalki. What a joke. And people are falling prey for this. They go fall at their feet and say, oh, Kalki Bhagwan, Kalki Bhagwan. This is all fake. Cheaters and cheated. I don't want you to get cheated. So you better know who Kalki is. From the evidence given in Srimad Bhagavata Purana. So when Kalki comes, he is going to be magnificently beautiful. Like we'll put some images here in this video to give you a glimpse. He's going to be so mesmerizingly beautiful. He's not going to be some old person, growing old, his teeth is falling off, his hair is turning gray, he's becoming weak and one day he's going to die. This doesn't happen to God. Have you ever seen Krishna like an old man who is helpless and all those things? No. He's young and beautiful and just like all the qualities that I just described. So don't fall prey for the impersonators. Really know who actually the Lord is. So now having covered few of those points, when he will come and who is he, what will he do when he comes, before diving into the details of Kalki himself, let's talk about this villain in the form of Kali Purusha, the personification of Kali Yuga, who will be annihilated by Kalki when Kalki comes. Who is this Kalki? I mean Kali, sorry, not Kalki, Kali, let's not get confused. So every yuga has a personified form of that yuga. He is actually a person who spreads his influence all across the span of the yuga. Satya Yuga has, a personified form, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. So the personified form of Kali Yuga is this Kali Purusha. And in which dynasty does this Kali Purusha come? For that I am going to jump to the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam here. Chapter number 8, text 2 onwards. Let us briefly go through what is given here. Lord Brahma had another son by the name Irreligion, Adharma, whose wife's name was Falsity. From their combination were born two demons named Dhamba, or bluffing, and Maya, or cheating. These two demons were taken by a demon named Nirvritti, who had no children. So this is the dynasty in which Kali is going to take birth. So Brahma has many sons, and one of the sons he had was Adharma, irreligion. And this Adharma had a Bharya. Who is Bharya? A wife. And what was her name? Falsity. Okay. And these two people, Adharma and this falsity, when they got married, they had children. And who were the children? Damba, Maya. And then the family lineage continues. From Damba and Maya, these two people, although they were actually brother and sister, but they were so degraded that they married. This is how degraded it is. And from these two people getting together were born more children, and that was greed and Nikruti. See, all the evil characters are coming in this dynasty. Greed and Nikruti. Nikruti is cunning. And from their combination came children named Krodha and Himsa. So many negative qualities. And from their combination, please pay attention, Krodha and Himsa. When these two married, Krodha is the father, Himsa is the mother, and who was born? Kalipurusha. So Kali is born from anger and Himsa or envy. And this Kali also has a sister called Durukti. And like this, this whole dynasty continues. Lobha, Krodha, Kama, Moha, Damba. So this Kalipurusha's family is filled with the negative qualities, and in Kali Yuga, Kalipurusha, his power and influence will be widespread with all these negative qualities all over the place. And in fact, in Bhagavatam, in 12th canto, it is given some symptoms of Kali Yuga. So this is the beauty. Even before we get to a point in future, a point of time in future, Bhagavatam is already predicting all this. There's no surprise actually. If we simply understand the Shastras, what is going to happen, when it is going to happen, and how to not succumb and become a victim to these things, everything is given. We just have to know and apply. So I'm not going to really go into all the details of the symptoms of Kali Yuga, but I'll just read a little bit here and there for you to get an inkling of what Kali Yuga is going to be like. Shukadeva Goswami said, "Then, O king, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will all diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali." Are we not already seeing this? Dharma is going down, truthfulness, people keep lying at the drop of a hat for no reason, cleanliness is going down, tolerance, even for small things there are big fights, there is absolutely no tolerance, mercy, ruthless killing of millions of animals and fellow beings, duration of life, Ayuhu, average age is 100, but very few people get to live to 100 years. They die much before that. Physical strength, right? We clearly see even 2-3 generations ago, they could lift so many things and do laborious things, but we can't. And it's only going to degrade more and more and more. And memory, earlier people had such sharp memory, they would not even take notes. Simply by Shruti, they would hear and repeat, like Shukadeva Goswami, when he is speaking 18,000 shlokas of Bhagavatam, it's not like he is having big books in front of me. See, now I am having like multiple, I have 4 books in front of me to give a half-an-hour talk. But Shukadeva Goswami, he had no book in front of him, he was just speaking from memory. Suta Goswami in Naimisharanya, he is speaking from memory. So they were so sharp, but in Kali Yuga, we don't have that kind of sharp memory. That is why, in fact, Srila Prabhupada, my most glorious spiritual master, used to say, in Kali Yuga, to remember means to write it down. Don't trust your memory. Make notes. Okay? And there are so many other symptoms of Kali Yuga. Let's see a few more. In Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior and fine qualities, and law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power. This also we are seeing, everybody running madly after money. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction, and success in business will depend on deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex, and a man will be known as a Brahmana just by his wearing a thread. How true! We are just 5000 years into Kali Yuga, and already these symptoms we are seeing, and it's only going to get worse as we progress. See, men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction, not for dharmic reasons, not because we have to make spiritual progress based on somebody's appearance. Success in business will depend on deceit, so much of cheating. And womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in union. And a man will be known as a Brahmana just by his wearing a thread. Simply go few rupees, buy one thread, Brahmana thread, and wear it, and just because of that he's thinking he's a Brahmana. No idea of scriptures, no qualities of a Brahmana like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, simply by wearing a thread. A person's spiritual position will be ascertained merely according to external symbols, and on that same basis, people will change from one spiritual order to the next. So Krishna is talking about Varnashrama system here. Many people, they don't take their vow seriously, they do not celebrate, they call themselves a brahmachari. Grihasthas, they don't take the responsibilities of a grihasthas but call themselves a grihastha. Vanaprasthas, they probably are not even renounced. And sannyasis, simply by wearing orange robes and carrying a sannyasa danda, call themselves a sannyasi as a means of earning livelihood. So people don't take all these things seriously in Kali Yuga, the vows of Varnashrama. A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living. And one who is very clever at juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. This also we see. Somebody who speaks flowery language is considered like a very knowledgeable person, which may not be true. A person will be judged unholy if he does not have money, and hypocrisy will be accepted as virtue. Marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement. Don't we see this already? Living in relationships, no ceremonial process, no taking of vows in front of the fire, Agni Sakshi. See, Bhagavatam is already predicting this, and this was written 5000 years ago. And we are seeing this happen now. And a person will think he is fit to appear in public if he has merely taken a bath. And unfortunately, many people don't even take a bath on a daily basis. Okay, that also something we have to tell them in Kali Yuga. So anyway, it's very, very interesting. If anybody is interested, you can study chapter 2 from Canto 12 of Srimad Bhagavatam, but because of lack of time, I'm not going to go into the details. But it's going to get so worse that Bhagavatam predicts that people will give birth to children to simply eat their own children. It's going to be that bad. They give birth and eat their own children. Can you even imagine? Scary situation. So when Kali Yuga degrades further and further and further, and when the situation is horrible, then the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Keshavadruta, Kalki Sharira, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. So Krishna will come as Kalki. Where will he come? Bhagavatam says he will be born in a village called Sambala. And in this Sambala village, there is a Brahmana family, and the Brahmana's name is Vishnu Jasa. And he has a wife called Sumati. And to this wonderful couple, Vishnu Jasa and Sumati, will be born this most beautiful baby boy in the Chaturbhuja form as Kalki. So he was born in the four-handed form, just like, remember, Krishna also took birth in the four-handed form. And then when Mother Devaki and Vasudeva prayed to the Lord saying that please Kamsa will harm you, you turn into human-like form, two-armed form, then Krishna changes to a two-armed form. So upon Kalki's birth also, in the most magnificently beautiful four-armed form, all the devatas earlier were instructed by the Lord that, I'm going to appear to remove your distress, to end Kali Yuga and establish Dharma in Satya Yuga. So all of you already take birth there. So it is said Durga Devi herself comes as the Dhatri for Kalki Bhagavan, as the nurse. Mother Ambika, she comes to cut the umbilical cord of Sumati when the child is born. And Mother Savita or Savitri, there is one more demigod, goddess. She actually brings the holy Ganges water and gives bath to the newborn baby, cleansing him. How amazing! And all the demigods are waiting to have the darshan of the Lord, and it is Lord Brahma who wants to pray to the Lord that, please turn from four-handed form to the two-armed form. But he was not given entry because, the baby is just born and it's going to be a while before everybody else can come and have darshan. But Brahma instructs Vayudev, saying that, oh Vayu, you can go anywhere, even into a closed quarters. So please go into the room and whisper in the ears of Kalki Bhagavan and please request him, pray to him to change from four-armed form to two-armed form. And then Vayu Bhagavan, when he goes and instructs, not Vayu Bhagavan, Vayu Devata. So Kalki Bhagavan, then he changes to a two-armed form. Then they had Namakarana ceremony, name-giving ceremony. All the great sages, they came there and they gave him the name Kalki. And when the boy was, of the appropriate age, his father, Vishnu Jasa, he took him to Mahendra Parvata. And who lives in Mahendra Parvata? Anybody knows? Any guesses? Parashurama, Lord Parashurama. I told you, Parashurama is a Chiranjeevi. And we have already talked about Parashurama in one of our earlier episodes. If you haven't already watched it, you've missed quite a lot. So you need to get back to that episode and watch it. So Vishnu Jasa takes Kalki Bhagavan to Mahendra Parvata in southern India. Beautiful mountain where Parashurama is still residing and will continue to reside. Imagine, end of Kali Yuga, Parashurama is still there. So Parashurama is also an avatar and Kalki is also an avatar, and it is the meeting of the two. How beautiful. And Parashurama also knows that Kalki is none other than Krishna's incarnation. But he accepts him as his disciple, and all the 64 arts are taught by Parashurama to Kalki. Kalki very nicely, like a very, glorious disciple, very diligent disciple. He learns everything attentively from his spiritual master Parashurama. And when his education is complete, Kalki tells Parashurama, my dear spiritual master, I want to offer something to you as Guru Dakshina. What can I give you? Please instruct me. And Parashurama says, the only Guru Dakshina I need from you, oh my dear Kalki, is that in the Himalayas there is a grama called Kalpagrama. Nobody, Kali Yuga people have no access there, access denied. Only great exalted beings like Madhvacharya was able to go. And even in Madhvacharya's case, his disciples could not go beyond the point. Only Madhvacharya went there. So this is like a very secluded, confidential place where we are not given access. There, Parashurama says there are two exemplary kings. Bhagavatam talks about them, Devapi and Maru. So although this is the fag end of Kali Yuga and filled with all degraded, sinful people, there are also some holy people in a few pockets of Bharatavarsha, because Kalki Bhagwan has to establish somebody to carry on and establish and continue Satya Yuga. So there were few exemplary people even at that time, and these two kings, Devapi and Maru, Parashurama is telling Kalki that you end Kali Yuga. You kill all these mlechas and you establish Dharma. You start Satya Yuga by making this Devapi and Maru as the kings. This is your life's purpose. And I want this itself as the Guru Dakshina. And Kalki falls flat, pays obeisances, Dandavat pranams to his most glorious Guru Parashurama. And he says, okay, my dear spiritual master, I will abide by your instructions. And then Parashurama says, my dear Kalki, as you are going, first you do some tapasya. You pray to Lord Shiva. And Shiva will give you all the necessary things for you to accomplish this task. Kalki says yes, and then he immediately goes and does intense tapasya to Ashutosh, Nilakanta, Shiva, Lord Shiva, who is the exemplary Vaishnava, a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhuhu. Vaishnava means like Shambhu, Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is so pleased by these very glorious, amazingly beautiful prayers of Kalki that he comes and immediately embraces Kalki. Imagine he's still a young adult, right? He embraces him and he's smelling his hair. So wonderful. And then Lord Shiva says, you know, just this meeting of Lord Shiva and Kalki, Lord Shiva is saying, if anybody hears this, so many auspicious things will come into their life. And then he says, I am going to give you 3 amazingly wonderful things. And what are they? Number 1, he gives him a horse called Devadatta. See, there is this beautiful white horse upon which Kalki is, going around. So that horse was given by Lord Shiva. And not only that, Lord Shiva says, oh Kalki, this horse Devadatta is an Amsha of Garuda Dev. And Garuda himself is so glorious. So he says this horse is not different from Garuda Dev. And he can gallop at the speed of the mind wherever you want to go. And along with this horse, he also gives him a sword which is bedecked with precious diamonds and jewels and stones. So Lord Shiva says to annihilate, to chop off the heads of these mlechas, the sinners of Kali Yuga, you need a powerful weapon, and here is the sword. So the same thing, here you see, he is seated on the horse and he is carrying that sword given by Lord Shiva. And the third gift that Lord Shiva gave Kalki is a very interesting parrot, Shuka. And what is the speciality of this Shuka? Lord Shiva says, this Shuka is a Trikalajnani. It knows everything about past, present and future, and this Shuka will help you and give you the appropriate information as and when it is needed, which will be of great use to you. So this is how Kalki Bhagavan received horse Devadatta, his sword and the Shuka parrot, and he comes back to Shambhala. And when he comes to Shambhala, the king who was ruling at the time, even he becomes aware of the greatness of Kalki. He surrenders to Kalki, and the king himself says that whatever your mission is my mission, and I want to participate in it. And as all these things are happening, side by side, there is an island called Simhala Rajya. In that island called Simhala Rajya, there is a king called Brihatrata with a wife called Kaumudi. And this king Brihatrata and Kaumudi had a beautiful daughter who was actually an incarnation of Mother Lakshmi. Her name was Kamala Devi, also called Padma Devi. And earlier, especially in the Kshatriya families, it was a common etiquette that any time the princess was about to, she's attained the appropriate age and she's about to be married, usually the etiquette that they will pray to Lord Shiva or Ambika, the wife of Lord Shiva, to get a great husband. Just like Mother Rukmini also, right? She went to do the puja where Krishna came and kidnapped her. So here Padma Devi also, Kamala Devi, she also was praying to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva was so pleased with her penance also that he appears and says, my dear Padma, only Lord Narayana is a suitable groom for you. He says that Lord Narayana himself will come and he will only marry you, but any other man who looks at you in the wrong way, in a lusty way, he will immediately turn into a woman. What a powerful blessing. And very interestingly, right after that, Brihadrata, the father of Padma Devi, he conducts a Swayamvara. Imagine. And in this Swayamvara, all the kings from across the world come, because everybody have heard, the beauty, the chastity, the glorious qualities, the exemplary chastity, the character about Padma Devi. Everybody wants to marry her, try their luck. So they all come for Swayamvara, thousands of kings, and the moment Padma Devi is walking and they all look at her, and in no time all the thousands of kings, because they looked at her with lust in their eyes, they all turned into women. Maybe Lord Shiva should give this power to all the men in the world also. Then there will be no rape, no nothing. The moment somebody looks at another woman with the lusty eyes, he will turn into a woman. I think this should happen. So all these thousands of kings, they turned into women and they were so embarrassed. How will they even go back to their kingdoms? How will they show their face? So what happened? All these kings who turned into women, they all became the dasis, maid servants of Padma Devi. Okay, so all this happened and Padma Devi is thinking, my goodness, is my marriage ever going to happen? Has Narayana really appeared anywhere? So this is where the Shuka comes into picture. The Shuka, many days it was away from Kalki Bhagwan. It was here in Simhala Rajya observing all these things. So this parrot Shuka, he conveys to Padma Devi saying this, my dear mother, don't worry, Narayana has definitely appeared. He is in Sambala. I am going to take the message and he will in no time come and wed you. Take your hand in marriage, don't worry. He gives hope to Padma Devi. So this Shuka, he goes to Simhala and narrates the whole thing that, Mother Lakshmi herself incarnated as Padma Devi is waiting for you, my lord, for you to go and accept her hand. And then Kalki Bhagwan comes and Kalki Bhagwan takes Padma Devi in marriage. So this is how the marriage takes place between the Supreme Lord Kalki and Mother Lakshmi, who has come as Padma Devi. And right after this, now Kalki, who has mounted his horse with the sword in his hand, with everybody else, whoever few Dharmic kings were there, they already were in support, they were on the side of Kalki Bhagavan, and all the other mlechas and other sinners, they all became, one-sided. And now, see, Kalki Bhagavan has to establish Dharma, he has to establish Satya Yuga. For that, he has to annihilate all these sinners, and especially Kali Purusha, remember. And this Kali Purusha, he's ghastly looking, he's horrific, he smells really bad, and he has established his whole influence across the entire creation during Kali Yuga. I told you, his dynasty, what a degraded dynasty with all the negative qualities. Now Kalki Bhagavan has to annihilate all of them. Vinashaya cha dushkritam, all the dushkritis have to be killed. So for that, Kalki Bhagavan decided to do Ashwamedha Yajna, Rajasuya Yajna. So he is going around wanting to do this Yajna, and with his sword, just like a tender coconut, if you have seen tender coconut shopkeeper, he will be talking to you and meanwhile he'll be just chopping off the top of the coconut. You feel like, oh my god, this is so amazing. So like that, Kalki Bhagavan was chopping off the heads in the millions of all these dushkritis, mlechas. And Kali Purusha himself came, and there was this big fight between Kalki Bhagavan and Kali Purusha, and Kalki Bhagavan, being the Lord himself, he annihilates, he destroys Kali Purusha, and Kali Purusha's children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, Lobha, Matsara, all these, they all came, and Kalki Bhagavan killed all of them, and Kali's time is gone, finished. And the moment Kali ran away, All his, dynasty people, they were annihilated. Satya Yuga started to be established from that moment. Satya and Dharma appeared back again. So Kalki, having finished this, he was on his way back. He was wanting to go back to Sambala, but on his way in one of the kingdoms, there was a very pious, righteous, religious king called Shashidwaja with his beautiful, chaste, loyal, faithful wife called Sushanta, and they also had a daughter called Rama Devi, who was also another incarnation of Mother Lakshmi. So this king, he was not hateful towards Kalki Bhagwan or anything like that. His mood was completely different. He was actually a devotee of the Lord, but still as a Kshatriya, that Virya Rasa is there. Remember, just like Bhishma, although he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, but he exhibited that Virya Rasa between Krishna and himself. Like that, Shashidwaja also, he comes and he challenges Kalki that, you have to fight with me. And Kalki and Shashidwaja are fighting. And then although the Lord is Ajita, nobody can conquer him. Here it is just a beautiful pastime that Kalki Bhagavan falls unconscious. The moment the Lord falls unconscious, Satya and Dharma, the personified forms, they also appear there coming to the rescue of the Lord. And Shashidwaja is so powerful that he grabs Satya under one arm, he grabs Dharma under one arm, and he embraces, keeps Kalki against his chest. All three of them, he takes them to his kingdom. So it's all just pastime, okay? The Lord can never be defeated. He takes all three of them back to his Antapura, back to his kingdom, and places Kalki Bhagavan on the throne. And he immediately calls his wife, Sushanta, Sushanta, look who have come to our palace. Aho Bhagyam, how fortunate are we. There is Satya, here is Dharma, and there on the throne is Kalki Bhagavan himself. Come on, bring all the auspicious paraphernalia and perform the puja. So she is, hurrying up and performing the worship, and meantime, Kalki Bhagavan wakes up, becomes conscious, and then he's like, where is my sword? Where is my sword? Where is Shashidwaja? He's in the mood of fighting. And then he gets to know what exactly is happening and why Shashidwaja did what he did. And finally, upon the request of Shashidwaja, Kalki Bhagavan accepts the hand of Rama Devi also in marriage. So just like our Tirupati Balaji also has two wives, right? Bhudevi and Sri Devi. Similarly, Kalki Bhagavan also accepted Padma Devi and now Rama Devi. Both are incarnations of Mother Lakshmi. And at this point, Shashidwaja, the king Shashidwaja, is singing the glories of devotional service. He is telling everybody how he got this great fortune that someone like him got a son-in-law who is the Supreme Lord himself, and a daughter who is the incarnation of Mother Lakshmi herself. Why? He says that many eons ago, my wife Sushanta and I were cannibals. We would eat humans. She was a she cannibal, I was a male cannibal. And there was a hunter who came and, hunted us down. And in order to kill us, he said, that hunter took both of them to Gandaki river, and Gandaki river is very powerful holy site, place of pilgrimage. And in that holy site, this hunter could not find an appropriate stone to bang the heads of this he cannibal and she cannibal to kill them. He found a Shaligrama Shila, and Shaligrama is not different from the Supreme Lord. So this hunter banged the heads of these two cannibals against that Shaligrama Shila repeatedly and killed them. So although it was not an intentional act of devotion on the part of these two cannibals, but because their heads were banged across Shaligrama Shila by this hunter, because of that punya, piety, what happened? 500 Yuga cycles, remember? Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, all for one Yuga cycle. Like that, Shashidwaja king is saying that 500 yuga cycles, they went to Brahmaloka. Imagine. And Brahmaloka is not in the spiritual world, it is the topmost planetary system in the material world. But even that is very, very glorious, it's great. And these two cannibals spent their 500 yuga cycles, then after that 100 yuga cycles they enjoyed in Swarga. And now, third time he is saying, after all that enjoyment in Brahmaloka, in Swargaloka, Shashidwaja is saying, I, my wife Sushanta and I are here as the king and queen. And we have this most wonderful fortune of having the Supreme Lord himself as our son-in-law and Mother Goddess Lakshmi as our own daughter. So my dear viewers, as we come to the end of Dashavatara series, if a little bit of Ajnata Sukruti can take somebody to Brahmaloka, Satyaloka and elevate them to the position of a king and queen and all these amazing fortunes, then what to speak of you and I if we can deliberately, consciously, intentionally chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the highest in the most simple form. That is simply to vibrate our tongue and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in this abominable Kali Yuga, 4,32,000 years, there are 10,000 years of golden period and we are right now in that golden period. Prabhupada has said this. ISKCON is only about 50 years old. We still have quite a bit of time. So we should make the most of this golden period in Kali Yuga. We should chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra as much as possible. We should relish Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam as much as possible. And we have to pray and take shelter of the Lord that we finish off this business right here and we go back home, back to Godhead, to Goloka. And we don't want to take birth again. We don't want to see the end of Kali Yuga and all that. So we should take this thing very seriously. It's very, very terrible times ahead. So we don't want any part of that. So we have to be very sincere, very serious, practice Krishna consciousness nicely to the best of our ability and go back home, back to God. Okay, so as always, we will end this episode by singing the 10th verse from Dashavatara Stotram of Jayadeva Goswami's Gita Govinda. Mleccha nidane Keshava kalayasi karavalam Keshava. Mleccha nidane Keshava kalayasi karavalam Dhumaketumiva kimapi karalam Dhumaketumiva kimapi karalam Keshavadrita kalki sharira Keshavadrita kalki sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare Kesava Jaya Jagadisha Hare. So all glories to the 10th incarnation of the Lord, Shri Kalki Bhagavan Ki Jai. So thank you very much for being our very regular audience, coming and watching every single episode. So we are just completing Dashavatara series, but that doesn't mean we are done with Once Upon a Time. Remember, we've already done Ramayana series, Demon series, and we just completed Dashavatara series. Next up, we are getting into another very interesting series called Mahajana series. Mahajana means exemplary people, the great role models in whose footsteps we can walk to achieve the ultimate purpose of life. So there are 12 Mahajanas as given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will know about every single Mahajana, who they are, what they did, how we can follow in their footsteps, all that and more, which you definitely don't want to miss. And as I have already mentioned in the previous episode also, going forward we will have one Once Upon a Time storytelling session per week, and that will happen on Friday at 8 p.m. IST. And also let me remind you again, we have an exclusive WhatsApp group called For Once Upon a Time. I am leaving the link right here in the description. Please click on that link and join us in our WhatsApp group, so that way you will be notified of all our storytelling sessions, and going forward we'll have some interesting discussions also in that group. So I invite you to join that group. Take care. Keep relishing Once Upon a Time storytelling sessions. If you have missed any episodes, they're all available right here on Aradhana YouTube channel. You can go back and watch them. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, do so right now, right there below. And if you like today's session on Kalki Avatara, all the interesting facts that we discussed, go ahead and hit that like button and show some love. Take care. We'll be back with the next first episode of Mahajana series as part of Once Upon a Time. Hare Krishna.